That is the question. Hello, give me a little message if you can see me. Just so I can make sure everything's working properly. Also, this lighting's terrible. I swear, I'm dealing with different cameras at the moment, so the lighting looks great on one and awful on the other. Classic. I'm not actually even sure if I am visible right now. Not too sure. Oh, it looks like we are. Too sure. Oh, it looks like we are. Okay. I should have it enough to be able to see chat anyway, so that's good. I'm just going to get it up on YouTube here so I can see your lovely comments. Oof, this light is so overexposed. I look great. I look gorgeous, darling. Okay. I think we are ready-ish to go. So, let me just do this. And then we should be good to go. It's funny, somebody in the chat before mentioned dreams, and I was like, oh, perfect. Just gonna change my camera slightly, hang on. That's so dramatic. Wow. I'm kind of annoyed you can't see my my pride flag in the background. Hang on. Oh, even worse. I mean, now I'm like tiny. There's like no middle ground. I mean, that kind of works, I suppose. It's terrible. Wait. No, not really. Oh well. That'll do. We'll survive. Oh my goodness, hello. Good afternoon, Jamie, my darling. How are you? Oh. There we go. Just turn myself down so it doesn't feedback. How are we all? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being... thank you all of you for being patient today with delays and things like that. Dave is super on this stuff. He's very, very slick. Me, on the other hand, if anybody knows me in real life, I'm a little bit of a chaotic gremlin. So, I know what I'm doing, I just don't know. Yeah, no, I do know what I'm doing, I just don't always do it quick enough. So, we're here now, and basically, I wanted to know who in here has heard of Dreams? Dreams is a PlayStation exclusive game. I think the beta was originally out on PC, sorry. But what I wanted to do is kind of a second part to the meditation before. But this time, what I tend to do on my mental wellness streams, which I have on Sundays and Mondays, is I tend to break it into two parts. So I tend to do a guided meditation, something very visual, something very kind of calming. And then we break it down with some dreams, usually. And we'll either do some what I call digital gardening, which we might do a little bit of later. Or what I do is I play a game on dreams, which has been created by someone, usually like a mountain walk or something really calming. And, you know, we move the character around, we do a little walking simulator moment, and we just talk about life. We talk about what's going on, what's on our minds, what's worrying us, what we're proud of, what we're yeah, just things that come up. And I think today, especially because of Pride, what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about, our experiences as queer people coming out. And so what I'll probably do as we go along is talk a little bit about or open certain discussions, and then if you guys want to, have a little chat in the chat box, I'll be reading comments. I can see all of the comments here, so this one's a bit more interactive. And yeah, we'll be chatting backwards and forwards whilst I play a little bit of Dreams. So, does anyone in here not know what Dreams is? Give me a little shout out if you're not actually sure what it is, and I can do a little explanation for you. Oh my god, look at the cat. So, let's find something. Ooh, this might be a good one. Right, let me make sure I can actually see this. About chat. That might be better. Oh, that's so much better. Okay, so we've got Jamie in here, adore this game, so varied, and Paul says haven't heard of Dreams. Long story short, Dreams is probably best described as a creation engine / game. There's two parts to it, or two kind of main elements. There is what they call dream shaping and dream surfing. Dream surfing is what we're going to be doing first, where you surf dreams. Dreams are creations. It can be music, it can be you can create short videos, you can create still images, you can create games, films, music videos, all using the kind of almost the I was going to say the basic, but it's kind of advanced at times, concepts of like a game engine, but without the codes, without the kind of structure, all that kind of thing. So what we're going to be doing today is doing a little bit of this and having a little bit of a chat on my streams. As I said, on Sundays and Mondays, this is what I tend to do, and it's nice because we get to kind of relax a little bit, sit back, play a game, explore something new together, and also we just get to talk about things that come up. So I wanted to chat a little bit today about maybe coming out stories, experiences of Pride, and when our first Pride events were. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of be chatting with you guys, and hopefully we'll do some soul digging. No, but we'll talk about some stuff. Hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what Dreams is. That's the simplest explanation. There's a lot to it. Switch, free flow, fly through. Oh, is this the one that was just a visual? I think I remember this. Oh wait, no, we don't. So yeah, who in here has heard of Dreams? We know Jamie has, Paul hasn't. It is available on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. I have never seen anything like it before in my life. It is incredible. I'm not sure if this is the one where you can actually move your character, because there's one that looks very similar. I think it might have been made by the same person. But yeah, I think what I wanted to do was take this segment, as I said, to do a second part for the meditation thing. And to give you guys a little bit of a break from gaming. I know some people are popping in and out to grab lunch and things like that. So what I thought we'd do today instead... Oh, you can move in it. I thought you could. Oh. Whoa. Maybe not. Okay. Don't think that's the one I was going for. So, there's one I saved. And it was beautiful. And you can kind of just walk and stuff. It was cool. There's lots of so people make horror games on this. People make kind of like short form games, almost like What Remains of Edith Finch, so kind of story based, emotional based. Some people make very much like walking simulator type stuff. I've saved quite a few of these kind of walking simulator ones. And some of them are just stunning. So, let me try and find the one that I tend to go for. Was it Mystic Valley? Yeah, I think it was Mystic Valley. Hello, Dave! Dave is in the house, y'all. So yeah, as you can probably see today as well, I'm switching between a few setups. So my usual Twitch stream uses this, where I'm playing a game and using the PlayStation 4 structure basically to stream. And today was actually the first stream I did was the first test of a software I've been using called Restream. And I really liked it. It went really well. So later on for my Sounds Queer segment, you're going to be seeing that in more full motion. But for now, what you will see in this stream is what my streamers currently see, and my viewers currently see, which is my beautiful face on camera, and the game in full view. So, in terms of games like this, this will kind of blow some of your mind, I imagine. All of this in here that we're looking at, including the way the camera moves, the character moves, all of it's been created in Dreams, using the Dreams engine. Which, when I first started playing this, I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what? But one thing I love to do, and I'll probably do as a little example later, is if you go really close to objects and look, I'm not sure how well it will appear on screen for you guys, but if you can see, there are tiny, tiny cubes, almost sort of like pixels, right? They're what the Dreams engine calls flecks, and they are basically everything is made out of flecks. Think of it as like molecules. Everything is painted, and there's square flecks and triangular flecks and all these kind of ones, and they create different textures in the way that it looks, in the way that it reacts with light. It's insane. It's such an incredible system, and what it means is people can create all sorts of things because it's based on like a molecular structure of like tiny things that make big things. And then what will happen is there'll be some people in the Dreams community who will love making trees. So they will make tree-like assets, and they will spend a lot of their time constructing that. Some people will make character models, some people will just do music and sound. And then what people do often is they will take assets or kind of grab assets and work as a community. And then they'll make like massive pieces, games and films from this. So it's totally kind of community driven. It's all based on remix, very much like Creative Commons license. It's really, really cool. Is it a game where you explore different environments? So yes, you can. So this is an example of that. So as I said before, this is dream surfing. So basically you surf other people's dreams, like when you surf the web. And then the other thing which I'll show you just before the end of the stream is dream shaping. And if you've been to any of my streams before, on my mental wellness ones, I do something which I call digital gardening, where I have this very abstract, psychedelic garden space. And we always create something in it. We test out some feature of dreams. And so I'll give you a little look at that, and maybe we'll make something together, something Pride related. How does that sound? Maybe like a really big, brightly coloured flower. That would be pretty. Oh, hey, hello, my darling. How are you? So good to see you. So what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of a walking simulator moment and have a little chat. What I wanted to know, if you guys were kind of good to talk about it in relation to today, is to talk a little bit about coming out experiences to start off. Ooh, I don't think I've seen this bit. Wow. Again, this was all created within Dreams. All of this. The sky, the way that this looks in terms of closeness, the way that the light bounces off things in the distance. Pretty sure I can jump off this. Yay! Happy Pride, I'm jumping off the edge of a mountain. So, coughing non-stop and very fatigued. Oh, can't speak today. That's a shame, Ake. Are you feeling okay? Are you like down with a specific illness at the moment, or? What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so I wanted to talk about coming out experiences as we kind of do a little walk together. And I guess I'll start with mine. So if anybody wants to share some details of their coming out experience, please feel free to do so. I just remember the first thing when I actually joined Bristol Gamers, and Dave will attest to this. The first conversation I had with, I think, Dave and Ed, and there was a few other people, was we ended up talking about all sorts of stuff, but then I was like, so if you don't mind me asking, what was everybody's kind of coming out experience? Because I'm just like this. I just ask these questions, and people are like. So the fact that I've got a forum to do this now is great, because people don't look at me as weirdly. Um, I don't think I can go down here, can I? Can I? Oh, yes I can. Pretty. So, I guess I'll start with my kind of coming out experience, and feel free to share yours in the comments. My coming out experience, in short, there was a couple of environments. One was my school environment, and I was actually sadly forced out in school. So I started to come to the conclusion when I was in school that I was certainly into men, certainly attracted to men. I considered myself bisexual at the time. And what happened was, I've told the story quite a few times, but there was a friendship group that I was kind of part of, and long story short, I went into my school's canteen. It was an all-boys Church of England school, so that should paint you a picture. And there was this, as I said, this group that I was friends with, and I came over to sit next to them, and one particular lad in the group looked really upset. And obviously, especially in an all-boys school, you know, lads being upset and crying was very rare to see. And anyway, so our kind of mutual friends were like, "Hey Johnny, you know, this isn't going so well. You know, he's really sad about something. We can't get him to talk. Like, can you talk to him?" Like, yeah, of course, yeah, no worries. So I was talking with him, and I was like, "Hey, what's the matter? You know, you don't seem yourself." Anyway, he proceeds to tell me that, when he kind of feels comfortable to anyway, that he is actually coming to terms with the fact that he screams, no, with the fact that he is gay, and that he feels really alone because there's nobody in school, and he only really felt like he could tell me because, like, we were friends, and he knew that I was very kind of supportive of LGBT community. We talked about it, I think, before, and I said, well, especially you're not alone. I'm starting to come to terms with the fact that I'm into men, I'm bisexual, as I said, that I identified as at the time. And, you're not on your own. This was around the kind of lunchtime period. And by 3:15 at the end of the day, pretty much half of my school knew about myself. And what I think had happened was, this person had taken the piece of news, and if rumours were circling around him, he was able to kind of deflect it and put the attention onto myself. And the reason I was going to say like telling this story, I don't like telling this story, but the reason I often tell this story when it comes to coming out stories, or I'm really happy to share it, is because often, and I'd be interested to see if anyone else in here has a similar experience in this way, our coming out stories sometimes, or our coming out experience, can be taken away from us, and can be somebody else can have it, and they want it from us, and they will use it against us, and we don't often get to come out in the way in which we like. Because of that, stuff started to be talked about in school. People were making jokes on their social media. My family then found out through jokes on social media. It just didn't go as I planned, as I'd hoped. In addition to that, in terms of the experience of coming out, I have come out a handful of times in my lifetime, as it were, whether it's the traditional coming out, or whether it was me kind of coming to terms with. As I said, came out as kind of bisexual, I guess in a public way against my will when I was younger, when I was about 13. And then when I was about 16, 17, when I moved to college, I'd started to kind of say, well, no, I mean, I thought of myself as bisexual, but I don't really find women attractive, but I was also very much at the time coming to terms with a key element of myself, which I now very proudly identify as, and it was probably the biggest weight off my shoulders, which was that I identify as non-binary. I have a non-binary flag behind me, which you can't actually see, annoyingly, because I'm using a different camera setup later, where you're going to hopefully see it. But it's behind me. You can see the purple and the black and the white, you're just missing the yellow. And I also have a non-binary tattoo because, you know, that's how I live my life. And but yeah, the experience of kind of coming out multiple times was quite an interesting one. And I would say, and I've said to friends before, the biggest thing for me in terms of coming out, or the most powerful one for me, was actually coming to terms with the fact that I was non-binary and that's how I saw myself. Because it was kind of like all those other elements, sexuality, the way I saw myself, made even more sense now. And it was quite a powerful experience. So that's kind of a brief overview because I don't want to do all the talking. If anybody in the chat would like to, in brief or in long, if you'd like to, share a little bit about their experience, or just tell me when it was that they came out, whether they came out or not, and what was that like for you at the time. So if people would like to share their experiences in the comments, and I will, you know, we'll kind of talk it out together. Because I always think that's important if we want to do that as a queer community. It's like any community, we have more in common than what separates us, and that's across all people within the LGBTQ plus community. That's, you know, across people who are trans, non-binary, gay, genderqueer, asexual, anything. You know, we all have a lot more in common than we do different. So, yeah, what were kind of people's experiences in terms of coming out? When did people come out? And what was that like at the time that you did? Did you feel was it on your terms? Was it not on your terms? Yeah, let me know in the comments, and we'll start up a little discussion as I walk around this mountain. I know it seems very weird in juxtaposition, but I promise, usually in my streams it makes entire sense. Whoop. Also, this game is really pretty, isn't it? So what we'll do is, once this kind of discussion's kicked off, we'll maybe search for another little game. We'll have a little chat instead. And then we'll do a little bit of ASMR gardening to end. Whoops. No! I always fall off things. Who did you tell first? I found out I had a sequence of people I wanted to tell first. But it went friends, brother, mum, then dad. That's interesting, Dave. So, when you say it went your friends, brother, mum, and dad, was that the order that you wanted? Because you said that there was an order that you actually wanted, so I'm guessing it didn't quite go the way that you planned. Mine was similar. Mine was friends, my sisters, and then my mum and dad. And then my mum and then my dad. Jamie says, I was very lucky in the sense coming out as gay wasn't too upsetting. The only thing was for both parents. They approached me and asked me. Excuse me. So it felt like they had the upper hand. Right, okay. Jamie, if you don't mind as well, could you talk about that a little bit more? How did that kind of come about for them to ask you? Was there a specific moment, or, you know, was there a need? Did they feel a need to get to they got to a consensus where they were like, we need to ask Jamie about this? What was your experience of that? Dave says, and mum basically told dad, and mum found out via Darren's place to rent, actually, gay household. Ah, okay, I see. So, Dave, was this all kind of, did you tell people at different times? Because obviously me and you have spoken a little bit about this before, but for the sake of people in the chat as well, you, if I'm not mistaken, you kind of came out in a more staggered way, didn't you, over a little period of time? If you don't mind me kind of telling your story a little bit for you. So could you kind of talk a little bit more about that? Because I remember speaking to you about it and finding that just really, really interesting. You know, that you'd had a more staggered way of coming out. You know, that you did it on your own terms in a way. Oh, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in a brick. This is heterophobia weighing me down. Wow, I'm actually stuck. Okay, well, That's the universe's sign for me to stop playing this. Let me play something else. Ooh, do you guys want to see Cyber City? I love this one. It's probably one of my favorite dreams. Paul says, I was 21 when I came out and wished it had been earlier. That's interesting, Paul. And when you were 21, did you wish that it had been earlier? Was it that when you were 21 you wished it had been earlier? Or was it kind of looking back now, you think, do you know what, I could have just done it when I was younger? What was that experience like? Jamie says, my mum worked it out via finding porn. So that was another level of embarrassment. My dad divorced, asked me years later. I never felt like he was approved, but he did. However, he was deeply upset that I never felt I could tell him. Okay, the music in this is a little bit chaotic, actually. Let me switch to something else. It's funny because I've played so many of these now. It's trying to find one that kind of fits the vibe I'm going for. You know what I mean? Heavenly Castle's beautiful. Could go for that, I suppose. Yeah, let's do this one. Right, so Jamie says, my mum worked it out via finding porn, so that was another level of embarrassment. Yeah, however, he was deeply upset. I think, do you know what, it's a common thread as well, and I'm not going to, speak for you here, Jamie, and don't know the kind of ins and outs of things. But I always say this to friends generally, across even kind of coming out. It's an honest thing for somebody to say, I'm hurt that you couldn't share that with me. And I'm pretty sure in our lives, in all of our lives, we've all been hurt when somebody didn't tell us something that we thought that they would. But quite simply, there's two particular layers here. One is that, as we all know, in our own ways, the queer experience, or however you see yourself, in terms of coming out, can be so embedded in how you think other people are going to love and appreciate you, and obviously in some cases whether you are safe and things like that, which can be incredibly important. People have to respect that it is a massive thing, and a lot of the time there's parts to coming out where it's not just about telling people, it's about coming to terms with it ourselves. Because we are not told, certainly generationally, we are not told that it is okay to be gay, etc. These things were hidden from education, from sight, from representation, on purpose, in order to. But obviously, what it does is it doesn't stop people being gay. It stops gay and queer people being happier earlier. It doesn't stop queer people being queer, because it's our essence. It's who we are and how we align ourselves in the world. And in terms of finding porn, I can imagine that must have been, I had similar things. My parents, I can't even remember exactly how it was, but I think they'd maybe seen me looking at things, or I'm trying to remember. I remember there was definitely some sort of I don't know whether I talked about kind of men in a way in which other people my age didn't talk about or whatever. But they kind of picked up on it earlier on. In a similar way, that there was even when I was younger, there was even if I couldn't understand it yet, there was a psychological or psychosexual interest in men, even if I didn't, even if I was only young, there was an attractiveness about men in the male form, which has broadened out, kind of since. But there was something about that spoke to me a lot more than kind of women forms, as it were, or kind of femme forms. So yeah, so there's definitely that element of it where, you know, people have to respect that it's difficult for us, and on top of that, and with the greatest amount of love in the world to your dad and anyone who's in this situation, quite simply, coming out isn't about them; it's about you. Um, you know, we could go into the discussion of why do people have to come out at all and all that, and it's a very valid discussion that should always be brought up, and hopefully we will see kind of changes in time and things. Um, but the biggest thing is that people, can I run on a side note? I don't think I can I? Oh, I can! Oh, that's so much easier. Yeah, on a, what's I gonna say? Oh! No! Um, that's the system crumbling before our queerness. There we go. Whoops. Whoa! No! Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah, people have to understand it's not about them. It is about coming to terms with us, and it is about being outward in as a minority and saying my lived experience is ostracized and treated differently by people. And I remember my mum actually saying something to me, which at the time still hurt because I wish she'd just been like, "Oh, I'm so proud" or whatever. But instead, I remember my mum's first response to me coming out to her when I first did. Which, bear in mind, I was 13, and you know, things had changed as well. She said to me, firstly, "Are you sure?" Which is a classic parent thing to say. Like, no, I just thought I'd gamble on it. Classic mum thing to say. But she said to me, I said something like, "You look worried," and I thought she was worried that almost that I was like this. And she said, "No, I'm just worried about how other people are going to treat you." And that's, I think, one of the biggest things when parents are accepting or you know that they love that about you, or that you know that there isn't an obstruction there. Sometimes the obstruction can actually come from a place of fear, you know. So Dave says, yeah, close friends when I was 21. And then they helped me tell my brother. But I think I was trying to make it obvious to parents via the people I hung out with and how I presented myself. I hear you. I hear you. I think sometimes it's easier to... It's funny, really, because you'd think it'd be one of those things that... I think some people would think it'd be easier to say than almost to... It'd be easy to say I'm gay than to bring, you know, a guy home or bring your partner home or you know to come down, you know, presenting in a way in which fits you in terms of your gender and being like, this is me, this is who I am. But actually, I think words can be equally as difficult, because there is something very was it Socrates or Plato that did the I think therefore I am. It's kind of like the powerful concept that's to very much paraphrase him, but it's that kind of existential quality, isn't it, of being like, you know, I am here, I am queer. That's hard. That's hard to come to terms with, especially when the world, in a majority, is anti-queer, even if it's in ways in which, you know, it doesn't realize it. Much like the world is still, you know, still has this majority stem of racism in so many things, because it's stuff that we as human beings have to unlearn. It's stuff we have to change. It worked, but I didn't really flat out tell them. They found out, which made it easier, but then I kind of got lectured that it's just a phase. That's really unfortunate. Dave, if you don't mind me asking, did you speak to your kind of parents afterwards and maybe the conversation changed a little bit? I would have liked to have been more openly gay at sixth form and then uni, because it might have been a better experience and you can be more yourself. I think it's quite a common age, I would say, for people to come out around about that time. I definitely remember I was the only out queer kid in, as I've said, my all-boys Church of England high school. But there were other people I knew, were kind of queer, and either we, experimented with each other, or they were friends of mine, or, I kind of sensed that from them. They came out, a lot of them in sixth form and then in university. And I think that was the big thing as well. People always talk about, well, why do people have to come out? In regards to sexuality, especially, for example, if it's being gay or being pan or being something where you might date somebody of the same sex, it will impact the way people perceive your relationships. And the reason why people feel the need to come out is because society deems heterosexual and cisgender as the norm. And until the point where these things are not seen culturally as the norm, we, have to come out, but people will culturally be expected to come out, because otherwise we're just expected that we're the default. And that's not the case. And that's what's really important. Same, I had gay friends pre-coming out and they asked that why didn't you tell me? I wasn't ready. Exactly. And let me just say here, I imagine most people here are out, and that's not a, because you should be, or anything like that. That's very much just a case of being here and knowing, obviously, a few of the people in the chat and things. If you are not out, or if you're coming to terms with elements of yourself, or, other people are not, for example, work colleagues and things are not aware of things, I want you to, as much as possible, try to eradicate any what's the word? Obligation. Any sense of obligation in your mind that it is somebody else's right to know about how you see yourself in terms of sexuality and gender, because it isn't. It's your story and your life to come to terms with. And really, how I think about it in terms of sexuality and gender is I'll tell anybody if they ask. But in terms of, talking about relationships and things like that, it's much like anybody talking about relationships. It's kind of an honor, I feel like if I talk to you about my relationships and my love, that's because I trust you. That's because I feel that you're worthy of me talking to about. So I think sometimes with queer people can, much like they do with trans people, they will ask questions and make assumptions about things that that really they would not ask straight or cisgendered counterparts. And that really can be really damaging, because it's like, so hey, what genitals do you have? Which, by the way, I've now that I'm kind of openly identified as non-binary for quite a few years, I've been asked that a handful of times, and it never gets particularly pleasant. So it was like, so you kind of look like a guy, and I'm like, please carry on, I feel me not telling my dad was heavily influenced by media, and the only examples I knew were disapproving fathers, rather than actually let myself think about the parent I knew and who he was. Yeah. I totally understand. I think as well, the thing is as well, I think sometimes we categorize parents or people's reactions as good reactions or bad reactions. And I think one of the most important things I saw was, my parents, in many senses, it was the classic. They had gay friends. They were punks in the 70s and the 80s. They were very much part of a scene that was queer centric. That they lived in Toxteth and Liverpool, which was a predominantly black area, for a period of time when they were first together. They were there actually during the Toxteth riots, and were kind of very much. The working class people of Liverpool saw this, not the same by any stretch, but saw first or definitely second hand some of the stuff that was going on to minorities, specifically black people in Liverpool at the time. And all of those things were true, but then I remember my mum and dad really still, I was the first notable person in their life that they saw firsthand the difficulties that I went through. In the way that other people treated me, in the way that I felt about myself. Because I always say being queer did not... The fact that I was queer didn't make me, have difficulties. It was the fact that I was queer in a world that was not, not catering, not accommodating towards queer people. It's just a phase. I had that. What will the neighbours think? I love that. What will the neighbours think? And they'll probably... It's like, well, maybe they should mind their own fucking business. You know what I mean? What will the neighbours think? And it's like, what? Karen and Dave from next door. Sorry, Dave. But true. You know what I mean? Oh, they are fine these days. Time helped a lot to let them come to terms with society and the situation. Yeah, I think it's a constant learning experience. Definitely. And if anybody else has anything they'd like to kind of talk about in terms of their coming out experience, or anything about coming out in general, please feel free to share. I think what I'd like to briefly talk about as well is Pride events. I want to know people's experiences of Pride events, whether that be a more protest-driven march or community event, or whether it was the more kind of, I guess, commercial or commonly known Pride events, where it's almost kind of festival-like. And let me just kind of clarify how I feel about that, just for all intents and purposes. First and foremost, Pride is a protest. It always has been, it always will be. Equally, Pride can be a place where people can actually fully express pride in themselves and be around other people who are proud to be who they are. And I don't think we should hold people back from partying. Be aware of commercialization of Pride, you know what I mean? Always. Because a lot of these companies, they just want your cash. They are pandering, but that's what companies do, The most important thing, though, is to remember that, Pride is about freedom of expression and liberation, and a fight for those who have not been given the rights and the abilities to live safely, freely, as they want. And whether people express that through dance and enjoyment, and or through protest and debate, and a political movement in the more kind of obvious way. There are many different ways to protest, and I personally believe that there's something very powerful as well about going to a Pride event and seeing a lot of different queer people and allies enjoying themselves all together, mixed in, and that really is something to celebrate in and of itself. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of know about people's first experiences of Pride events. What was your first Pride? If you've not been to a Pride, tell us maybe kind of why, or why it's not for you, or why you've not had a chance. Or if there's a Pride event you would like to go to, perhaps. I think what I'll do, just for the last bit, because we've only got about 15 minutes, or just shy of that, I'll get something nice and relaxed on in the background. And we can have a little chat. Remember, this was quite nice. So yeah, what were people's first kind of Pride experiences? My first Pride experience was Liverpool Pride. And how old was I? It was when I was 15, 16. And Yeah, I remember going and just being with a bunch of friends. I had a bunch of kind of LGBT friends at that time. I was seeing someone at the time, and honestly, I'd never really experienced anything like it before. Um, and I remember just feeling very, very loved, um, and very accepted. And there's a bit like many marches where um, you would march through, specific streets. Um, and there's one specific bit every year. There's a specific church or a kind of religious group that are always in the same spot every year with the Pride March, and it's the old, this book says this, and I come unto thee, and a lot of that kind of downplaying of things. Um, and there's people who are in the Pride March who are Christians or are people of all different faiths as well. And I remember this particular year, the first year that happened, everyone started singing "Born This Way" by Lady Gaga as we walked past them. And the particular group that I was walking with was a bunch of LGBT youth. It was part of Gyro, which is the oldest LGBT youth group I think in Europe, which is pretty incredible, certainly in the UK. And we were walking with them, and there was a bunch of there was people from across the spectrum in terms of the community, and all of us singing "Born This Way" by Lady Gaga together, and kind of having that defiant statement of love, and people were walking past and blowing them kisses, and it wasn't that fuck you or anything like that. Now, I'm not saying that people couldn't say that, because fair enough, but I remember that particular thing being quite powerful. Certainly in terms of me, um, in terms of, I guess, the way I approach a lot of activism, in what I do and what I love to do, which is to spread information, rejoice, celebrate human freedom and expression, um, and go about it from that angle, which I think is very important alongside, calling people out on behaviour and standing up for people who are marginalised. Probably Bristol long ago. Hello, Sonic YTP Witch Productions. Go ahead and check out Meta Runner Racing on Dreams. I will do on another stream, my friends. So this stream is actually for Bristol Pride 2021. So we're just chilling and chatting for the next 10 minutes, just under 10 minutes. But if you send a message on Dreams, or send the Dreams over to the Hippie Goth, and it's spelled, I'll type it into chat. Actually, no, I won't. Oh, yes, I will. If it hurries up. But it's the Hippie Goth anyway. If somebody could type it in for me, I'd really appreciate that. It's THE, as in the, and then hippie is in HIPPYGOTH. Oh. And yeah, we will reconvene there at some point when I actually do another stream. Paul says, I think Pride Days are a great way to express and celebrate being LGBT, but they can also be pretty loud and brash, and therefore might be off-putting to some. Absolutely agree, Paul. And I think what I've found is really important, is much like Pride events do now, think of the different components if you break it up almost like events, right? You have the march, which can be more of a visibility thing. It is more like the kind of the protest elements of Pride. Then you have, usually an event which is more festival-like, where people are enjoying themselves. There is a sense of, inspirational artists and creative people, and, is very much of that ilk. There are also other events usually around Pride that often don't get the same level of I would say marketing and overall kind of being pushed by things. And I think that's really important because, like anything, Bristol, as I'm sure Dave will show you more in the next stream as well, there are so many elements. There are, in usual times, film festivals, family and child-related things, play days and things like that. There are walking tours. There are, I think there are specific music gigs and nights and things like that. There are more sex-positive things. There are educational talks. There are lectures and seminars. There are all sorts of different things. And it's important, I think, as queer people as well, that if we know other queer people who maybe would like to access these events and feel that it would be beneficial to them, but the obvious average type of Pride festival vibe with the march doesn't quite fit them, I would always recommend sending them, Bristol Pride, let's say's website and being like, look at these other events they do. Let's see if anything interests you here. Because I would say that, I think a lot of people are scared of the concept of a Pride event when really it is a celebration and an inclusive space, or certainly should be an inclusive space. Of human culture and music and art and of being. Can't find it. I can't find the channel. It is it's the Hippie Goth. So it's not sorry, it's not a channel. This is on Dreams. So if you send it to me on HIPPYGOTH on Dreams, or you can actually I should have access to this video afterwards. So if you're having trouble there, that's fine. I will find you. I'll find you in the comments afterwards, and I'll give you a message. How's that sound? But thank you for stopping by, Sonic. Which, Jamie, if you're here, that sounds so funny. Sonic YTP, perfect. Thank you, my friend. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Feel free to hang around. I'm going to be here for the next couple of minutes, just chinwagging. We're talking about coming out experiences today, being queer, being LGBT, and just generally stuff like that. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in my event later as well. So we have Sounds Queer starting at 8 PM. That is going to have two very special guests of mine. One who some of you may certainly recognise, and the other one, some of you, especially if you're really into kind of the Bristol and Bath music scene, you will recognise as well. And we're going to be talking a little bit about stuff. I'm going to be asking them about their experiences with music, and what it means to be kind of a queer creative person. And we're also going to be having some fun. We're going to be playing some silly games as well, quick fire round type question things. So yeah, that's going to be from 8 till 10 PM, and that's going to be really fun. Dave says, and in Bristol at least, anyone can support and march in the parade regardless of gender or sexuality. Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's the thing. It's very much a case of, I say this a lot. One big philosophy I have is, freedom for one means freedom for all. In the sense of how I kind of see it is, if we are allowing people to be mistreated and treated differently for things based on their sexuality, their gender, their background, their ethnicity, their nationality, their kind of what disabilities they may have, ways of thinking in the sense of, whether they're not really into certain things or they are into certain things as a general rule. If we allow one particular minority group to kind of be like, well, I'm not that, so I don't really care. What happens when that comes back around to us? And so what I will often say to people is, if you care about Pride, you should care about the other causes too, because they all stand for the same things. They're just different strands of addressing inequality in the way in which people treat each other. And that's really, really important. It's really, really important. We're going to be wrapping up in just a few minutes' time here, but just as a little reminder, as I said before, from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. British... Is it summertime? BST? Or is it standard time? Well, anyway, BST. Basically, whatever time it is in the UK, or I think Portugal's the same time. Randomly. Well, not randomly, it's literally the same, you know what I mean. But from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. we're going to be talking about queer music. We're going to be playing some like music videos, chatting about things. I'm going to be chatting, as I said, to two people within who I'm speaking to. One person who is a queer music maker, and we're going to be talking a lot with her about her experiences, who's a friend of mine, and we're also going to be talking to a queer music kind of curator and event runner here in Bristol, and we're just going to be having a bit of a laugh, chatting about things, and obviously there'll be opportunities to ask questions as well. Well, it's GMT, but it's not at the moment, is it? It's BST, because it's summertime. So when will you check out Meta Runner Racing? So I stream usually, my friend, on Sundays now, but that's not that kind of stream. And I stream, I'm trying to think as I've changed my schedule recently, Wednesdays and Fridays mostly. So basically, if you follow me on Twitch, actually, I won't have the command here because it's on YouTube. But if you follow me on Twitch, I am JT Leon on Twitch. That will be where I'm streaming it to. So this Bristol Gaymers YouTube today is something I am featuring on rather than being the host of, as it were, or the leader of, if that makes sense. With all of that beautiful things in mind, firstly, I just want to say thank you to everybody for sharing little bits of their stories. We're most probably going to have opportunities as well during Sounds Queer, as things come up, to share those experiences as well. I'm going to be speaking to my two guests about their experiences, maybe coming out and things like that as well. So we'll be talking a lot more about that later. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for being patient with any kind of technical difficulties we might have this evening. I've been JT Leon. You've all been very, very beautiful. I'm just going to check now that Dave is ready to go with the next thing. And then we'll get started. So, let me just pause this actually. Aha. So yeah, I will see you guys probably in the chat for the next thing, which I've actually forgotten what it is. Which is really terrible of me considering I'm one of the co-hosts, but I have the memory of a sieve. So, there we go. And I desperately need to open these windows. It is boiling in this room. Thank you very much, Jamie. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And as some of you already know, the quiz, of course. Yes, I will be in the quiz. I most probably won't be taking part because I have to set some things up for my next stream and probably not die from heat stroke in this room. But yes, I will be in the quiz, probably in the chat making funny comments because I'm hilarious and that's what I like to do. I also like to piss off Dave at any given moment in time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys very much. I will see you at 8 p.m. and I'll also see you in the chat for the quiz. Have a good evening, my darlings. See you on the other side. Goodbye!